Alright. What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks, coming to you live from beautiful and sunny and now hot Los Angeles. Coming to you from, I don't know, somewhere in Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
his alma
exactly.
mater. Look how happy he is. He's wearing his Penn State polo inside of Penn State Stadium. You know what's
Yeah,
crazy about that stadium? Isn't it the biggest stadium in America?
the third.
Third?
Oh,
What's
it's I
third?
think it's either the third in the world or the third in America. Maybe the third in the world, and then the second in America. The biggest in America is unfortunately Michigan. And then
Oh,
we're
that's
right behind them. Yeah, yeah. And then we're right behind them at we're either two in the country, three in the world, or three in the country. I forgot the exact because there may be like a soccer stadium somewhere in like the Middle East or maybe Mexico that is the number one largest stadium. So I forgot if it makes us two or three, but yes, it's a large
Yeah,
stadium.
some of those stadiums are massive.
Yeah, exactly. But we're
Massive.
right up there.
Well, look, guys, it's Friday. We're both of us are looking good. I got my tan on because I've been at the beach like 3 times this week. And my skin is looking vibrant. The beard is trimmed up. I gotta go to a barber though. I gotta get this part cleaned up. But anyhow, let's talk a little CFP, huh?
Let's do it.
Let me tell you a little bit about um what I've been seeing lately that I think if you are a candidate that is starting to study, let's forewarn them with the one thing that I think is the cardinal sin of studying for CFP. I think you already know what I'm going to say. It's
Yeah.
using the Q bank to learn. Okay. And I'm going to give you this example of a student that is taking a FINRA exam, Series 6 to be specific. And we were doing a session a month ago. And I was showing him how to we were doing a quiz and I was showing how to use it as an open book. And I would not let him like just click the answer. He's like, I want to click. I said, find it. So he looks at the question. He looks at the book. He goes back to the question. He goes back to the book. He goes back. And this happens 2, 3, 4 times. And he finally gets the answer. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe it took me that long. It must have taken us 6, 7 minutes for him to get the answer to one question. He worked his ass off for that answer. Okay. A month later, he's doing his practice test to get ready for the 6. That section of the book, he knows like this, really, because he did that twice with 2 questions. And the reason being, he's like, I can't believe how well I remember it. And the reason is he really worked for that answer. Now, I could have let him click and he would have gotten the answer and he would have read the answer and then we would have moved on to the next question. And for most of us going, well, this is a waste of time. I'm just going to click. I'm going to get the answer. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to repeat it the next time. The number of times that I've heard people say that if it's taking me longer than a minute to answer a question, I'm going to click, I'm going to read the answer, and then I'm going to know it next time. And that is the biggest lie that you will sell to yourself, that you're going to click for an answer that you didn't really work for, and then all of a sudden you're going to know it the next time around. Now, that student, that the reason that was so imprinted on his head is because he really worked for it. He had to read the section 2, 3 times. I'm not understanding the difference between an aggressive growth and just a regular growth fund. I think it was something to that extent. Versus an equity fund, versus an equity income fund, versus a balance fund. He had to read this 3 and 4 times. This information was new to him. So he's sitting there and reading it and then reading it again and reading it again. And finally, you can see almost like this light bulb of going, oh, now I see the difference between this paragraph and this paragraph. And until he worked for that answer, it was never going to click because you got to work for the answer in order for it to stick. And for any of us, it's kind of like, if there's an autofill on something, Like, you know how like Google and like and everything has like, and Gmail now has this autofill. It's like saying, oh well, if I just autofill it, then I'm gonna know how to spell this word. Well, if you never type the word, how the heck are you gonna know how to spell it? Right?
Right.
It's like, and if like, you know, as you know, I love relating everything to the gym. If I keep getting assistance on a pull-up, I'm never gonna be able to do a pull-up on my own until I have to struggle through that pull-up.
No, for sure, for sure. And like if you use the Q bank like that, and you always say, you know, when you do like all these like mock exams and take all these like practice questions, that it's kind of like an indictment on what you've put into your prep so far, right? If you're gonna learn it, and a lot of people do this, and I did it for all my series exams, and then the first time I took the CFP exam. If you're gonna use the questions and then like the answers and the justifications as a way to like that's your textbook, the way I'll kind of like analogize it is you're kind of studying with bumpers. It's like going to the bowling alley with a
Explain,
bumper.
explain.
Like you go to the like if you go to the bowling alley and you have bumpers on the side, there's really no like you could go up there and just throw the ball, however, and it's going to eventually get down there. The bumpers are going to keep it on the lane, and you're going to hit a pin at some
Mm,
point.
mm.
And that and when you take the bumpers off, there's obviously a chance that you end up in the gutter or whatever it's called in bowling. And that's kind of the analogy because like you go to the bowling alley, all right, no carefree, just toss the ball. If you're using the a Q bank or you're using practice questions as a way to study, you're not going to do it the guy that you just explained. Like he sat there for 7-8 minutes looking for the answer because he's like, no, Joe's not going to let me just click and find out what the answer is. He's like, I need to learn it on my own.
Right.
If you don't have that discipline or you don't have someone there pushing you to not do that,
Yeah.
you're probably going to go like, all right, it's been 30 seconds, 45 seconds. I'm just going to click one of these answers and hopefully I get it right.
Oh yeah.
That's the analogy. Does that make sense?
I love that analogy because the truth of it is that when you're learning something new that you don't know, how are you going to institute discipline in something that you don't know?
Yeah. And just to add on to it, if that kind of also, and the one thing that you always kind of emphasize when we were doing like any like questions or anything like that, it was always like, no, you're not just going to click the answer and click one of the options and get the answer and get the justification because like that's not what you have to condition yourself to like take the question seriously
Yes.
as you are on the exam.
Yes.
So
So you got to treat it. It's like, you know, and if the bowling analogy doesn't do it for you, think about riding a bike with training wheels on it. Do you know, can you balance a bike once those training wheels are off? And the answer is likely no, because you know, like if you've ever taught like anybody to ride a bike, and I was actually teaching my nephew how to drive a couple weeks ago, and you know, again, if I have my hand on the steering wheel, he's not learning because you're not feeling the repercussions of your decisions.
exactly.
And with training wheels on, and well, if I go a little bit too far to the right, it's okay. That wheel is there. And if I go too much to the left, that other wheel is there, it's supporting me. Okay, then there's no real repercussions for me leaning right or leaning left. I fall off the bike, I learn real quick where that line is. Right. And in a way, in education, we call this process productive struggle. And the reason that we call it productive struggle is we know that most of us, just as humans, we don't learn unless there's an actual repercussion. And I'm sure all of us have a friend that keeps like doing the same thing over and over again, right? They keep spending money over and over again. There's no repercussions. They don't save money. They keep dating the same person over and over again. There's no repercussions. They just break up and then they date somebody else. It's a natural part of our behavior as humans that unless there's real consequences, then there's nothing to do. And you don't end up feeling that until you're a month out for the exam and then you're going, holy crap, What have I done? I haven't learned anything. I've just been clicking and reading and clicking and reading. It's kind of like the Duolingo effect, right? And any learning that's at base, it feels good. It's not real though, because you don't learn Spanish from an app. You learn Spanish by talking to other people. It feels like you're learning Spanish on Duolingo, but then I tried it and then I got into a conversation with Spanish. I was like, holy crap. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Too fast. Too fast. Too fast. Slow down. I don't know that word. I don't know that filler. And it's the same idea here, is that in order to learn, you got to go back to the way that kids learn. This is not learning. Like you can't have bumpers. You can't have training wheels. You got to struggle through it. And that's the key. And that's what the Q Bank takes off. And it feels good because it's like, at the end of it, David, I've done 2,000 questions. Good for you. Have you done 2,000 questions without bumpers? Because the only ones that matter are the ones you did without bumpers. I really like that analogy. I'm going to give it to you today, man. The Penn State really brought your smarts out. Who knew? That's what you needed to do.
But with that being said, like there's absolutely a place for it.
Correct.
And it absolutely will be instrumental. It's just you have to kind of use it the right way.
Correct.
And I think the overall point that you and I are trying to make, and we have made this point like countless times, is that don't use it solely. Like don't just rely on it. Like, and again, a lot of people have probably taken a lot of the FINRA exams, and that's how they've kind of been conditioned to prep. It's just like kind of take those exams or take like 1,000.
Yeah, the Q Bank is a shortcut method to study.
Right, but it won't work here. So don't like solely rely on it. And here's another thing I just want to point out is that on the Series 7, there is more than a handful of questions. And when I say Series 7, I'm talking about all the FINRA exams. And I hope they don't change it now if FINRA is listening to this. But a lot of the questions that I used to see in the Kaplan or whatever Q Bank I was using would actually be on the exam, like literally the exact question.
Oh, that doesn't happen anymore.
On FINRA or
on the FINRA exams, because when I took FINRA as well, there were questions that FINRA would release to test providers as practice questions, but then they would keep them on the exam. So you're going in and you're like, man, I saw that question before. This is literally the same question.
It was literally like the same thing. So, well, I would take one of those in a few years, but the point that I was making was that I know on a lot of the other exams they used to do it, and I thought they still did it, but in the 2 times that I took the CFP exam, never did I see a question that I saw before. Well, so like
they rewrite the CFP exam every cycle.
Yeah, well, I know. I know. I'm just getting the point across that like don't rely on seeing questions in the Q Bank and then getting the same ones or like a similar one to that, because that's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the FINRA exams, the natural thing that everybody in your office says is don't read the book. Watch a couple
questions.
Do the questions until you get yourself to a 75 and then go and take the test. Cross your fingers, hope that's what. But that's not studying. And you can't get away with it. And even with FINRA exams, like FINRA's not stupid. They know the way that people were studying for exams, and that's why they changed the exams.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, where it's now an applicative exam, and that's what's getting a lot of people in trouble.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy I took it already. I would hate to have to take those again.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, for real. But anyway, I hope this episode was helpful to you guys. Please hit the like and subscribe button if this episode was helpful. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to David or myself, and we will see you guys very soon.